Okay, I think this is recording. Um, Hello everyone, and welcome to our second info session for the SciComm case competition. I'm very excited to just talk about what this competition is about, the timeline, and a few other key important aspects regarding this competition. So to get started, I've already mentioned that this session will be recorded. We'll be placing the recording on our website, which you can check out um, in the link mentioned in the chat or through this QR code. So essentially, our competition is a fun and collaborative way to experiment with investigating a problem, conducting a research analysis to solve an issue, and then presenting it in different formats tailored to specific audiences. Um, so that kind of just sums up what this is about. But essentially, what you will be doing as a team is figuring out what you would like to research as a group, and then to uh, analyze the problem in regards to the theme, and then to create a project. So there's two different rounds that I'll be talking about later. And so in each round, you're going to be presenting your research in different ways to different audiences. So before I get more into the specifics about what we expect, the prizes include a cash prize for the first and second place team, as well as any special contributions from our sponsors, as well as potential publications. So because you will be writing a journal article and some reviews and other papers, this will actually go towards publications, whether in journals or in a newspaper or in any sort of different format to showcase your projects and what you have done throughout this event. So a little more about the timeline. Registration will open October 17th. That's this upcoming Saturday. So you can actually find the link to apply on our website, again mentioned in our chat or in the QR code. You'll be answering a few questions just about why you would like to compete and any experiences you may have had with science communication. But the actual event will start on January 4th. So that's when classes will start for the winter semester. That we're going to be sending out an info package to all of the teams competing in our competition, which includes just a welcoming statement, a rubric on how each round will be judged, and then a few key important aspects in regards to this competition. This includes a more detailed timeline as well as schedule for the workshops mentioned here in this timeline. So specifically what days the workshops will be on, as well as what the workshops will be about. On January 10th, you see that there's a topic submission deadline. This deadline doesn't necessarily mean that you're kind of boxed into whatever you decide to choose. It's just to ensure that our committee knows what you guys are going to research and to ensure that it's not too specific or too general and that it's kind of the right topic for your project and something that you guys can actually research throughout this competition. So you can alter it, you can change it afterwards. It's just helpful feedback for us and for yourselves to know you guys are on the right track. And then you'll see that there will be 2 workshops in January. This will be for all teams currently registered for the competition. And then there will be more workshops in February and March, as well as networking events not mentioned on this timeline. These are more specific to the finalists. So you can see on January 31st that we have the first round project submission deadline. That just means that by the 31st, you're going to have to submit your project that you have created throughout the month. And then from there, we will the judges will decide who will move on to the second and final round. So the finalists will have access to a more exclusive workshops and events throughout the next 2 months following the first round project submission. And then on March 28th, we're going to have the second round project submission deadline. So you'll be submitting 2 pieces of work this time. which would reflect the amount of research that you have done throughout the 2 months. Uh, just to remind you guys, it may seem like a lot of work, but it is a team event. You will have teammates to rely on to get you through this timeline. And of course, we will also be there if you have any questions or concerns regarding the rounds. So the
Sorry,
first,
Kate, I'm just going to interrupt for a second. There's a question in the chat.
okay.
How is research going to work with the red zone and COVID?
Okay, so this research isn't specifically something that you would go out and do in a lab. Of course, if that is what you have and you have access to these resources, you're very welcome to do so. A lot of the research that you'll be doing is just an analysis of all the actual research that has been currently done in the field of your choice. For example, I'll be mentioning later on our theme for this year, as well as some examples of what your topic can be. But just to generalize, if you were to choose to research, for example, a specific type of flowers, you would do an analysis of what information and data is already out there, and then compile that into, well, mentioned later, into a literature review, or quite possibly if you had your own research that you conducted into a journal article detailing what you have done and what you have found. I hope this answers your question. If you have any other, feel free to follow up.
Yeah, and since it's really going to be a literature review, we're going to have a couple workshops that are hosted by a librarian to really help you with the process of searching up research articles.
Yes. Okay. So to go into more specifics about the rounds that we will be having, the first round will be a news article, and the second round will be a children's book and a journal article. Before you get scared off, I'll just be explaining what we expect for these three writings. So for the news article in the first round, it'll be about 600 words. So it's about a page, single spaced. It's not too much writing, especially considering that you should have at least 2 to 3 people on your team alongside yourself. So one thing that is usually required or generally seen in a news article would be a primary source, that is an interview. This doesn't have to be, of course, a face-to-face video interview. It could just be you asking questions to someone in the field and then getting responses back, maybe via email or reaching out through Facebook or maybe through their website. And since you do have a month, I think this is a reasonable timeline for you to choose your topic and then find someone within that top field of your choice to reach out and ask a few questions. So specifically for the news article, the purpose of choosing this as one of the methods of communication would be that you're really generalizing your research and your analysis into something that can be communicated to the general public who have a limited scientific background. So it's to ensure that you can tell people your ideas and really get your point across when they might not necessarily have the background that you come from. And then for the children's book, we're expecting about 10 pages maximum. We don't really expect more than that, as well as a few simple illustrations. Specifically for the children's book, we're not really expecting, great drawings. Your illustrations doesn't have to be that of someone who does it for their job. It's just to ensure that with the children's book, you can explain scientific topics in a way that a child can. So for the general public, for example, in the news article, they most of them would probably have gone through some schooling, will have learned some of the scientific topics, but the age range we're really expecting is someone in grade 3 or 4, maybe around 10 years old, who may not have been exposed to as much science as an adult would have. And so this is just to see if you can simplify your research in a way that a child would be able to understand. And then finally, the journal article. So considering the amount of resources that you have, it'll likely be a literature review. And as Joyce mentioned, we will be having workshops on how to find research articles and other data to support your analysis. You can see it's about 4 pages, single spaced, and citations aren't included, so you have the space to really expand on your work. And this one is specifically meant to see if you can explain your project to people within the scientific field. Um, as I'll be mentioning later, actually in the next slide, um, the judges will be reviewing all 3 rounds, and specifically for this, it's someone who is within our theme. And so, especially regarding the topic that you have chosen, you should be able to come across, you should be able to explain what your research is about to someone who has the knowledge and the background to understand your analysis. So throughout our competitions, you'll see that we have our mentors and judges. Our mentors will be assigned to the finalist teams, so in the second round. However, they will be available throughout the first round to answer any potential questions that you may have regarding your research, or anything you may be looking into. So these mentors will be graduate or upper year undergrad students who have the research experience and the background to really answer your questions and to guide you through this process. Our judges will be the ones to evaluate your project submissions. These include faculty members, journalists, and children, specifically for the storybook, as well as anybody who has the necessary background to really help us evaluate who deserves to become finalists and to win the overall competition. Um, I'm sure you guys are wondering what the purpose of this case competition is and what you really get out of it. So we created this competition so that anybody interested in science and communication could put it together, and really be able to learn about both. Um, so because you will be conducting research as well as presenting your research in many different formats, we're helping you expose yourself to what people in research in the scientific field really have to do. So you'll see that obviously, researchers have to write journal articles, literature reviews, a lot of times, but a lot of other times, they'll have to speak to the general public. They have a lot of workshops, and it's important that as a student interested in any sort of research is able to communicate their ideas effectively and efficiently to anybody who may be interested. You'll also, as a participant in our competition, get access to workshops and networking events, as I mentioned before in our timeline. Because these aren't open to the general public, I guess it's considered exclusive, but it's mainly to help you guys, to help guide you through our competition and to really get a more intimate idea of what research is and how to communicate. Um, and then because this competition is open to any McGill undergraduate student, doesn't really matter if you have a lot of science or communications background, because we will be teaching you and guiding you through this process through our workshops and events and mentorship. So how do you register for this exciting event? So registration, as I mentioned before, opens on October 17th, and you can fill out the form on our website. So our competition is meant to be competed with as a group of 2 to 4 students. You can either find a group and then register, or if you don't have a group or can't find a group or just want to compete and find other people to compete with, you can register as an individual participant and we will place you in a team. Of course, we'll be, if you are placed into a team, we'll be contacting you with your teammates' names and contact information after registration ends. So the fun part, the exciting part, I know we've already mentioned before in our event, but this year's theme is the environment. So the environment is especially prevalent in today's world. You'll see a lot of activism, it's in the news a lot, and we believe that environment is an especially important topic to be talked about. Um, Also, the environment has a huge range of topics that you can investigate, and to really dive deep into what the environment means to you today, as a student, as a person, as someone who will be living in this world in the upcoming 10, maybe not 10 decades, but a lot of decades to come. So uh, a few examples of what you could do with the environment specifically for your topic includes, here's some do and don'ts. So for example, you wouldn't want to choose your topic as why is polluting bad? It's very general, it's broad, there's a lot of answers that you could potentially choose. And it'd be really hard to convey your answer to a lot of people when there's so much things to cover. What you should be doing is maybe using something like how does air pollution affect the respiratory health of those with chronic diseases? Once you've narrowed down your question like this, it's really easy to find a lot of resources and research articles and journals that really go into about um, like how to answer your question. So in this specific case, you could probably search this exact question up and find a lot of examples and data to read through and to support your answer as to how air pollution really does affect their respiratory health. You kind of want to avoid yes or no questions, just because once you've answered yes or no, there really isn't much else to answer. Another example would be how does deforestation affect the environment? You may think this is specific enough, but again, it's a little too general to really build on top of. What you could do instead is ask, why does the deforestation of the Amazon impact the local migration patterns of birds, and how does this change affect their livelihoods? Again, you could really research this, find a lot of articles that talk about various aspects of this, but it's not too general so that you have a lot to talk about. Um, and yeah, so I would highly recommend that you guys all register and fill out our application form as soon as possible on our website. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us on Facebook or via email at mcgill.swi@gmail.com. I'll be here to answer any questions that you guys have regards to the case competition. And again, please remember that this will also be posted on our website and on the Facebook event page.
So there's a couple questions from the chat.
Okay.
The first one is, can we register with an incomplete group? Like if a friend and I wanted to join but want a 4-person team, would we fill up that team for them?
Yes. So we'll actually, in the form, you can have there'll be a little indication as to who your teammates are, and then we'll have a little box that you can check if you would like more participants. So if you have only 2, so an incomplete team, you're very welcome to register as that, and we'll we'll give you more teammates.
Another question is anyone ever rejected from joining based on the application form?
So the application form isn't necessarily, it's not an application. It's just to gauge your interest level as well as your experience level so that we can tailor our competition towards your needs. So as of right now, I don't believe that we will be rejecting anybody. But again, if you kind of seem disinterested and we think that, I don't know, you might drop out, we'll probably reach out to you.
Yeah, so we'll be looking at the applications on like a rolling basis. So we recommend that you fill it out as soon as you can, but you don't have to feel too rushed to fill it out immediately if you can't. So another question is, do I have to have a team to register?
Again, no, if you would just like to compete, you're very welcome to just fill out the registration form and we'll place you in a team.
And similar to that, we can still have a team with just 2 people, right?
Yes, if you would like to compete as a group of 2, you're very welcome to do so. Please feel free to do that.
Someone asked what the time commitment is like.
So the time commitment really is up to you or to your team, actually. So if you guys really want to go all out and create a very fabulous project, which I would recommend, um, you probably would be putting in a little more time as opposed to maybe a team that just wants to go through the experience of attending workshops and really figure out how to do research. Um, but because you have a month, the time commitment shouldn't be that much if you do space it out properly. Um, Again, it's really up to your team how much effort you put into your presentations and your project, but you'd probably be expecting at least a few hours a week altogether.
Someone asked, is it possible to access projects of the previous winners?
So actually, this is our very first year. We're launching it via our MSWI. However, we will be showcasing and we'll have a platform to showcase all of the projects that were created this year, especially the finalists and the winners. So because we don't actually have any projects this year for you guys to see, for those who will be competing again next year, you guys will be able to access what people have done and have a few examples of what a winner and maybe a second place project looks like. Again, if you guys have any questions, any comments, maybe technical issues to accessing the registration, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Or if you have any questions about MSWI in general, about workshops that we have coming up, we can talk about that too. So someone asked in the chat, what workshop do you have coming up? So I mentioned this at the very beginning, but I don't think everyone was here. On Wednesday, October the 28th at 7 p.m., we have a panel discussion featuring undergrads at McGill who have published. So if you're interested in research or about getting published, it's a great opportunity for you to ask questions about people who have been really successful in that field and ask like, what it takes to get published or what's the process like. And some of them will also be sharing some of the difficulties that they face because of course it's hard to get published on your first try. So I think it'll be really cool for you guys to see the different perspectives that students have. And then some other workshops we have coming up. In November, we have a CV workshop that's in collaboration with MSurge and also the Student Research Initiative. I don't think we have a specific date for that yet, but it will be in mid-November. So keep an eye out for that as well.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I think we'll end it here. Don't want to take up too much of your time. I know it's a really busy time of the year for everyone. So just wanted to thank everyone for showing up and I hope you guys register in 2 days.